is on. Katie, Jennifer Belfiore.
Fred Stevens.
All right, we're live.
All right, good evening. It's March 7th, 2024. It's 6:31 p.m. and this is a meeting of the Finance and Facilities Committee. First item on the agenda is introductions, so we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves, and then we'll introduce the people who are online. Starting on my right.
Steve Morton, funded PTA council and vice president of Woodland High School PTA, and I have one son here in the 10th grade.
I'm David Warner. I'm a board member.
Yes. Chris Allen, board member, parent.
Dennis Pugliese, director of facilities.
Lisa Raymond, assistant superintendent for business.
Nick DeCiccio, I'm with the technology department.
Luke Johnson, technical support specialist.
And online, we're going to go from my point of view. I see Jennifer.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Jennifer Belfiore. I'm a teacher in the high school science department, and I'm the lead science teacher of the department.
Fred
Seba from BBS Architects and Engineers.
Katie.
Katie McGee, parent of a.
You muted in the middle of the sentence. Katie, parent of
Sorry, 9th grader.
Jessica.
Good evening, Jessica Muldoon, parent of 2 in the district and Highview PTA board member.
Carol
Allen, community member.
MH. Megan.
Megan LJ student and a student.
I
Stu.
couldn't understand what Megan was saying. It's sort of breaking up.
Can you try again? Maybe we can hear you better.
Sorry, I just said I'm a parent of an LFJ student and a Highview student.
Very good. Stu.
I'm Stu Gordon from BBS Architects. I'm the CA on the projects.
People are moving around. Jessica, have you gone yet? All right, Tracy.
Hi, good evening. Tracy Mears, Board of Ed President, but more importantly, parent of 2 daughters at Woodlands Middle High School and a son at Bailey. Thank you.
Giovanna. Giovanna, you're muted.
Okay, do you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, good evening. This is Giovanna Izaguirre. I'm a parent of 2 children in the district.
Very good. We have a couple of additional people back here.
Hi, Elizabeth Sandona, assistant to facilities department. Thanks for the Amy Ash, your district treasurer.
All right, is there anyone I missed? Wait, there's somebody connecting? No. Okay.
Hi, I think I just joined. Are we doing intros?
Sure, we're doing intros.
Okay, hi, I'm Sarah Lazari, parent of 2 in the district. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, anybody I missed? Next item on the agenda are the meeting minutes.
The intros?
Sure, we're doing intros.
Okay, hi, I'm Sarah Lazari, parent of 2 in the district. Thank you.
We got a time delay here.
Yeah, that's on us. The minutes. Momentum.
David, it's Tracy. Did you introduce everyone there in the room with you?
Yes, we did.
Sorry, I missed that.
All right. So let's take a look at the minutes. So this is from January 18th, the last time we met. Attendees were Lisa Raymond, Dennis Pugliese, Gabriella Barahona, Katie McGee, Amy Ashley Moore, Steve Morton, Jessica Muldoon, Chris Vallon, Fred Seba, Carol Allen, Mike Messina, Dr. Iverson, Elizabeth Sindona, Tracy Mears, Aaron Schwartz, and Luke Johnson. So let's page slowly through this thing and take a look and see if there's anything that you think needs to be added to or corrected. First page, we talked about the phase 3 proposal, all the possible projects for phase 3, and a lot of the next 2, 3 pages, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of it is going down in great depth and detail, project by project. There were some suggestions for some changes in a few of the options. Messina went over this in great depth and detail with us. If you see
Which page?
page on through, take it down to about page 5. I think that's the last of the soccer fields presentation. We kind of went over the idea of upgrading our fields for our soccer program. I will tell you that at the time we expected to have a presentation here, but from a group of a group of students from the high school, and they actually went to the board meeting since then, and they did not seek natural turf. They wanted, every last one of them wanted to have an artificial turf field for soccer fields. So our hopes of that getting smaller, not likely if you look at the preferences of the students. Then we went on. We talked about the second one should phase 3 begin. We said because everything is so slow and cumbersome, everything should begin immediately. How much of a risk of failure are we willing to accept? So we said don't bond for more than 5 to 8 million when you get to the point at which you think it's appropriate to bond. And then we went on to the item 4, phase 2 construction project. And we talked about the status of that. We went to the smaller projects, and there's several pages of that. We went school by school, on up through boiler problems at Bailey. We talked about woodlands, whether there were leaks in the walls as opposed to the roof. Then we came into finance on page 9, and the assistant superintendent for business went over the things that the award grants, the American Rescue Plan piece, and then she got into the very preliminaries on page 10 of the budget. We figured out that the rate of inflation was 4.12%. We realized that our executive budget aid run we were getting $500,000 less this year for our schools than last year from state aid, and we were filling in what we're working towards the budget vote on May 21st. We're going to hear more about that tonight. We had a brief audit committee update. We talked about the Edgemont Incorporation issue, the last couple of pages there, and there's further progress on that, which we can go over tonight. And Carol Allen, at some point when we get towards the end of the meeting, I'm hoping that you'll give us a little bit of an update from the point of view of the Saving Greenburgh Coalition on where we're at. All right, so that's the minutes of the last meeting. Does anybody see anything that they need to have changed or added to? Okay, hearing nothing. Do I hear a motion to adopt these minutes as presented? Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none? Motion passes. All right, so now let's bring up the agenda. Great. Okay, we've flipped things, so now we're gonna do the finance side first. We've got some progress on the budget. Lisa's gonna give us a draft budget presentation, followed by a period of us asking questions. And we'll go on from there. So Lisa, do you wanna take it?
Yes, thank you
All right,
very much.
now bring up Lisa's PowerPoint.
So momental, on a second. Hold on.
Mr. Warner,
Yes.
I know the presentation from the science teacher is much further down on the agenda, but perhaps out of a courtesy, we could move her closer to the top so that she doesn't have to stay in the meeting all night unless she chooses to do so.
That's fine with me. So after the budget presentation, we will then skip to the science presentation. Fair enough.
And I don't know whether or not, I didn't get to look at your agenda. I don't know whether or not you have put the vestibule of the high school and the debacle around that high enough on the agenda so it can be addressed tonight.
That is part of the facilities report that is normally done by BBS. So it's part of a major project. So it should certainly be there. There are several pictures and a diagram of that we'll go over when we get to it. Yes, so yes, we intend to get to it.
I may not be here. I have to log off at 7 for my leadership meeting with Dr. Iverson and Chris Fallon, the vice president. However, I hope that this committee is going to get to the bottom of where the ball has dropped and start to move things forward.
Thank you. Okay, Lisa?
Thank you. So, at Tuesday's Board of Education meeting, I presented this, March 5th budget draft to the board. So we're going to start with the tax cap, and Luke, does that top bar?
Yeah, I can. That top bar is not seen by them.
Oh,
They don't see that yet.
Okay, thank you. So we always start with the tax cap to tell you where we are at and where we would be to stay within the tax levy. To have a simple majority of 50% plus 50% of the voters plus one vote. So you always begin with this year, the 23-24 real property tax levies, which was $65,272,377. Then you multiply that by Greenburgh Central School District's tax base growth factor. The tax base growth factor is the result of any new construction and or new capital improvements that are done within your school district. So for this next school year's budget, that came in at 1.017. Then to this calculation, we can add back the payments in lieu of taxes, also known as pilots, that we receive in the 23-24 year. Because when those pilots are done, they will be those companies will be added to our tax base. So this is how we include that kind of in our tax levy number. And then we subtract out any capital tax levy exclusions. Capital tax levy exclusions are for those obligations that the district is responsible for. So when we did the energy performance contract, phase 2 and any other phases, if we need to take a bond and the voters approve it, the debt service for that year would be a capital tax levy exclusion. The capital tax levy exclusion for the 23-24 year and the 24-25 year are the costs for construction that Southern Westchester BOCES has done that Greenburgh is responsible for. So this is our share of that. So we subtract that out of the tax levy. So that gives us $66,577,772. Then you multiply that by the consumer price consumer price index, or the also known as the allowable tax levy growth factor.
Okay, Jessica,
So you, what that figure is whatever CPI is for the month of January or 2%, whichever is the lesser of the two. CPI, as trustee Warner had said, during the minutes was 4.12%. So therefore we have to use 2% as the amount that we can increase the tax levy by. Then we're going to subtract out the pilot payments that we expect for next year. And then we can add in any capital tax levy exclusions like I just spoke of. And if the employee retirement system or the teacher's retirement system increase from one year to the next by more than 2%, the difference, which was 0.23%, we can subtract, or we can make that an exclusion because it is in excess of 2%. So the employee retirement system, we're able to add back the $8,174. So our tax levy limit is $67,709,778, which is a 3.73% increase from this year's tax levy. If you don't use all of the tax levy that the maximum you could use in the previous year, the Office of the State Comptroller allows you to carry that forward if you would need it for the next school year. So that amount is $1,007,776 that we would be allowed to add to the levy. So the maximum levy that we could ask for a simple majority would be $68,717,554, which is a 5.28% tax levy increase. So the board had asked a couple board meetings prior to Tuesday for me to show them what a baseline budget includes and what our baseline budget would be. So that would basically be taking all of our expenses. Obviously, we're bound by collective bargaining agreements. We're bound by any employee increases, especially health insurance, the employees' retirement system, the teachers' retirement system increased, and just kind of roll all of that over before we added anything that was asked for or needed. Next one. So I'm going to start with the revenues just to give you an idea of where we're at with what the direction for Dr. Iverson was. So we all know that the governor's executive proposal for state aid gave us state aid of $6,287,061, which is less than what we received this year. That is the only number that we know right now. I know that unions are lobbying hard, school districts are lobbying hard to get rid of the cap and the takeaway of safe harmless for foundation aid, but we're still waiting for any new numbers. And then our other larger expenses are the sales tax revenue that we collect from Westchester County. Our pilot payments, the tuition payments that we bill to other school districts for students who are in private schools in our district. Interest earnings, we're going to appropriate fund balance of $2 million again. And then there are other smaller revenues such as refund of expenses, Medicaid reimbursement, and we often have insurance recoveries. So to balance this budget and to stay within the 4.12%, which was what the charge was, not to let the tax levy go higher than the consumer price index. So the real property tax levy would be $67,961,112. That would give us a total revenue budget of $80,950,278. Next look. So to see that in comparison to what was budgeted for this year, you'll see that we're taking a $340,231 hit in state aid at this time from the governor's executive proposal. Fund balance is staying the same. All other revenues, as I had described previously, we're increasing that because we're seeing that we're receiving a higher interest rate on the savings investments, so that's a good thing. We're seeing more in sales tax, and we're seeing more in tuition that we're charging. So that, again, the tax levy is 67,961,112, which would be a 4.12% increase. The budget to budget increase is 3.74%. Next week. So on the revenue side, I'm sorry, on the expenditure side of all this, I showed the board what a baseline budget would be. Again, just rolling everything over with the status of what it is now to keep everything in place. So on the wish list, Dr. Iverson has included here that we would like to add a middle school math teacher and we need another elementary special education class. That would involve 2 more teachers, the middle school teacher, the elementary special ed teacher, and 2 teacher assistants that would go into the special ed class plus their benefits. So that equals approximately $389,962. Next year is the year that International Baccalaureate will do site visits at Greenburgh, and we are responsible for those costs to get those reviewers here. That's estimated to be $30,000. And then our special education expenses have increased, and we're going to add $300,000 there. And then every year our BOCES coasters, the ones that we have in existence now, always increase, because you have to remember they have the same responsibilities as a school district. They have to adhere to their collective bargaining agreements, and they have increases in other expenses. What they have sent to us is about a 5% increase in expenses, so that's $115,000 here that I'm budgeting. So to balance this budget that we just showed you on the revenue side and on the expenditure side now would be, we would need to eliminate or reduce $750,000 somewhere. So since we've spoken about that, we would love to use the capital interfund transfer money to improve our security and safety. Dr. Iverson is recommending to reduce the 1.3 million to 550,000 and do everything that we possibly could with that money so that we could balance this budget and keep all of our educational resources intact. So if we compare that again to the 23-24 school year, you'll see dollar-wise, the largest change or increase is in instruction, which it should be because that's why we're here. We're here to provide instruction to our students. And then our employee benefits are increasing. Health insurance costs are going up between 15 and 17%. We know 2 of the 3 companies that we deal with, we know their increases. We're still waiting on the 3rd, but that does not come out till around November, December, because it starts in January. They're on a calendar year. And you'll see that we've reduced the interfund transfer by $750,000. Now you have to also remember in here, not only does this include the $1.3 million for the capital interfund transfer, it also includes $425,000 that we transfer to the special aid fund. That's where you get the $1,725,000 in this school year. So again, it's a 3.74% increase budget to budget. So again, this really should say, I'm just catching this now, that the interfund transfer to capital should be $550,000. We're cutting $750,000. And what we wanted to concentrate on when we met as an in-school committee, we want to concentrate on our interior and exterior cameras, and the cameras, additional cameras that we need, that we feel as each building principal, our building school safety officers, Mr. Police, where we think that we would need extra cameras. We would like to improve our radios that all schools have to communicate amongst one another. And by putting a repeater on Woodlands Middle High School, the roof, then, and we got the proper radios, each building could communicate with one another in times of an emergency. So that was one of our goals, to do that. And then there are some exterior doors that we felt that may need swipe card systems to allow people with their IDs to get in and out. There was a lot more on the on what we would like or what would be needed, but we felt that because we are reducing this to 550,000, we are hoping that we can do the majority of this and get it done and begin the upgrades that we need.
Chris?
Sorry, so the interfund transfers are 550,
550,
For the
not
capital
750, yeah, I'll change-
projects.
I'll change.
and then the other 425, where does that go again?
Especially fund, federal fund.
Federal funds.
So you advance money to the federal fund
Because
they're
of
on
the time
fiscal
limit.
year and on the time limit, correct. And you have to have that money available because you have salaries to pay, et cetera. So what would, right now with what I've just presented to you, what would be the impact to the taxpayers? Well, we always, Amy and I always, are in close contact with our town of Greenburgh, assessor, is that what she is? Assessor, and every year she sends me a letter that the assessment per town that we should use for this year is 4,600,000 or 4 billion, I think that is $601,601,021 for the whole town's assessment. All right, so that makes the tax rate per 1,000 $14.77. So for our example, a single family home assessment of $636,659. Now that number Edie also gave me, and Edie prefaced this, had a meeting with Amy and I, where she wanted us to be aware of, and I'm now want the board and you to be aware of, that when the reval happened here in the town of Greenburgh, and because of the home building and the home sales increasing, that is increasing everybody's assessment. Okay, that's why the $607,043 assessment from that last year is now $636,659. These are all numbers that the school district has no control over. Okay, so that makes it $636.66 per 1,000, and for this homeowner, that tax bill would be $9,402.83, which equates to a $527.53 increase in the tax bill, which is 5.61%. So what's next? We're still waiting on the final figures. We're waiting for a state budget. Once the state budget is passed, we'll get our numbers. And I know that I just, even up to today, are getting emails from colleagues and different organizations to lobby our legislature hard. And I believe that they're also asking taxpayers to lobby them also. So that we can get this foundation aid changed, and that they take away the safe harmless. It was a complete surprise when the government did this about foundation aid. Nobody knew this was happening. I believe even the legislature was surprised that she did this to balance the state budget. We are reviewing our current retirements. Those are coming in, and we received a direction from the board on Tuesday night. So just a reminder that the budget vote is May 21st, 7 to 9 at the Woodlands Middle High School, as it was last year. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Katie?
Hi, thank you, Lisa, I was confused after I watched it Tuesday about the 750,000. So the amount of money you're going to put in the interfund transfer for capital projects is 550,000?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple of questions. I see that we have the cut from the state, but is there any more to the rationale for cutting? Like, why are we only cutting money that's going into the interfund transfers and nowhere else? Was there any consideration to balancing it, taking away from any other part of the budget? That's one question.
There was talks about it, there was considerations. Dr. Iverson just tried to keep all the educational components intact.
Okay, and do you have any specific about, oh, go on.
It doesn't mean that it won't happen. Again, this is just the first round of budget that has been presented.
Jessica?
Right. Wait, could I ask?
All right, go ahead. You're not done. I was assuming Jessica was going to join in on the same topic, but I'm not sure of that. So go ahead, Katie.
Okay. I was just wondering if you could get any more specific about some of those additional wish list expenses. Like, I understand the teachers, the special ed teachers, but what's the general $300,000 for special ed?
Katie, you broke up. I didn't hear your whole question.
What's the 300,000+?
Oh, the 300,000+ for special ed, that would be increase in the cost to send students to private placements. We've seen an increase in costs for charter schools, actually a drastic increase for charter schools, and that all falls under PPS department. So that is Mr. Giarusso.
Yeah, let me just clarify for those that don't know, because different people log on here. Some are experienced, some are newer. And basically, as a public school district, we educate all children. We educate general education children and special education children. If a special education child cannot be serviced in our district for whatever reason, maybe a specific need that they may have, or their parents can identify a better place in some circumstances, the district is responsible to pay for that. So those are expenses, correct, Ms. Raymond, that we cannot change or reduce per se. So if those things go up for whatever reason, maybe someone moves into the district, maybe a need increases that we have no control over, that's an expense that's going to go up.
Correct.
All right, Katie, continue.
Okay, and how come an additional middle school math teacher?
I don't want to get this wrong, but from what I understand, Dr. Macaluso feels from some of our testing results that they could use support with another teacher to help those students so that when they move on to high school, they're better.
Okay, so not like that. We have more kids. It's more of a.
I think you broke up there, Katie.
You broke up. We lost the end of the sentence. It's not like we have more kids.
I was saying it's not an extra section.
Let's move on until we can hear her.
We don't have a good connection, Katie. We can't hear you.
Or she could move on. We can either have her type something in or have her reconnect. But we can certainly see the chat. Katie, can you type a sentence into the chat so we can at least get your point across? Wait just a second for that.
I see her face.
She's, we now we can see you, but you're muted.
Everyone to unmute her? 。
Can ask her to unmute. I can't unmute her.
The host can unmute. The host is, you're not able to unmute, Luke?
Katie, you're muted. Can you hear us? There, she's.
There.
Yeah, no, I'm in that.
We can hear you, but maybe for 2 seconds.
Yeah, just move on to the next question until Katie can get, yeah.
Okay, Katie, while you're typing, Jessica, would you wanna take it?
Yep. So one, interesting to hear about the charter schools. It's really, really frustrating. The impact of students going to charter schools on public schools. And I wasn't aware that we had that large of a population. So interesting to hear that information. My question is, if the governor does come back with with additional funding, where the cut's not going to be as drastic, would it immediately go back to restoring some of that interfund transfer, or would it be looking into other places? Or am I asking too much of a hypothetical question?
No, I think that would be up to Dr. Iverson. She may want to add more of what's on the wish list. I can't speak for her, but we're just waiting for that to happen to see what we would do.
Okay. Katie, do you want to try again? Okay, I was clarifying that we need a new math teacher to help existing kids, not that we have to have a new section of middle school math. And Jessica asked the same. I have questions I have about it if we get more state money. So is it to improve performance as opposed to because we're responding to increased enrollment?
It's to
improve
performance.
That's what I think too. And traditionally, middle school math is the point at which performance is the worst all across the state. So I completely understand what's going on there. All right, Sarah?
Yes. Can you please remind us of when the state budget is finalized? Like, if she puts money back in, do we have time to change stuff?
Okay, so the state budget was due March 1st, so they're late. So I believe that they're working to try to get it in place. The Board of Education has to adopt this budget by the second meeting in April. In order for Chrissy, our district clerk, to get the dollar amounts that need to be in the wording on the ballot and do all of the public notices. So we have till about, I believe, what is that April date for the next board meeting?
16.
April 16th.
Okay, thank you. So I'm glad we have at least a little more time. Thanks.
And the budget hearing is officially May 7th.
Yeah.
So now, given that it's March, we've got another FinTech meeting between now and then. April 4th, okay. So can we have a line by line budget so that we can go and look at that draft and figure out if there's anything that we think needs to be looked at again?
That's gonna be cutting it close.
Yeah, but that process needs to happen. Okay.
I'll do the line, you and I spoke about that, I'll do the line by line in the next meeting.
Okay, good. Okay, Carol? Dr. Allen?
I would hope that if our educators feel that we need an additional math teacher in the middle school, that would be part of the basic budget, not considered to be an addition. And I think that what we have now, $500 per household average, is going to be a hard sell for the community. So I hope that we would be able to get that down so that we won't have to be worried about whether the budget is going to pass or not.
So let me then ask you, we pulled a number that was basically the equivalent of CPI, Chris Vallon, we need to admit her. We pulled a number that was the equivalent of the rate of inflation and thought perhaps that the taxpayer would be willing to equal that. So would it be your recommendation then, if the state aid goes up, that we plow that into bringing down the percentage of increase?
I'm not worried about the percent increase. I'm worried about the absolute dollar increase.
The dollar amount, the $500 amount is too high.
Right.
So that would mean taking anything that the governor or the legislature gives us more and put it to the tax levy. That would reduce the
That would reduce it down, right? Okay, fair enough. And I think we need to kind of go out to the community and take people's temperatures. You know, this is a piece of community that Megan input right here, but you know, we should get more. So we should have more budget presentations and see what people think. Megan?
Do you think that it would be helpful to try to decrease the overall increase per household, but at the same time, if we do find that we're getting more foundation aid, I think we really need to consider refilling the amount that we are taking away from the capital budget for the buildings. Because I think we know that we have to be able to have resources available should something come up suddenly in our buildings.
Okay. So we have some people leaning one way, some people leaning the other. Fair enough. And do you feel that the amount of increase is something that you think that the voters will the traffic bear it? Will people vote yes?
I think it's the highest that people might be able to receive. I don't think it would be welcome. So certainly if it could be lowered, I think we try to do that. But I don't think that it would be a strong no from the community based on the path that we've had the past few years.
Okay, good. Maybe we split it. Maybe we split the difference. That is, more money comes in, goes to reducing the tax burden, and then a little bit goes towards restoration of facilities funding. Okay.
Yeah, I think, David, though, what you said is most important, that we really need to get into the community and speak to people, because I've never voted no on a school budget because I have children, I'm in the schools, I, support the public school district. I think we need to hear from people who have said no at times and how much they think is going to help pass, because I don't know. Okay.
Okay. Get feedback. Most important thing. All right, other comments or questions? Carol, Dr. Allen.
One other thing I'd like to bring up is the transportation costs. I'm hoping that we are looking to see if we could consolidate some routes so that the overall transportation budget would not have to go up so much. That's 10% of our overall budget almost.
I did ask Ms. Allen, I don't know if you saw the board meeting. I did ask in, I don't remember what first meeting, and also Tuesday night in the board meeting about just getting numbers on if we were to widen the radius of walking distance to the respective schools, because and another trustee added looking at the routes, like you're saying, on which way they're calculating the radius. Because if there's a tremendous savings or something that we can save or cut away there, because we did notice that the transportation, aside from employee expenditures and benefits, was the next highest amount. We do need to bus all of our children just outside of that radius, and also any private or parochial school children as well.
Yeah, I realize we have to do all of that. And I don't know that simply changing the radius for walkers is going to make a difference, because if there's a route bus driving right past them and there are seats on that bus, there's no reason that we couldn't be picking them up because there wouldn't be any additional cost for that. So really the only way to cut it would be if we had fewer routes with fewer drivers and fewer miles that were being covered by those buses.
Oh, I also learned in the meeting, I didn't know this before, so maybe people will feel helpful learning this, that a seat has to be planned on for every child outside of the radius, a seat has to be had on each bus. So even if I drive my children in every single day to school, they still need to be routed on a bus because God forbid in an emergency, they need to take a bus home. They need to be able to have a seat on a bus.
I believe there was one suggestion from Julia Long at the previous meeting, and she said, at Highview, there used to be an entrance, that went up and behind Highview and into the neighborhood, there, and if you didn't have to figure out the route in which you drive all the way around to get to Highview, that there might be, even with the current, radius, there might be more students that then, and when you calculate the route, don't require the bus, if they can go, straight through a small residential street and into Highview from the back way. And if we open it up, I'm not sure how much that would help, but it might help a little bit. Jessica?
I'm glad you brought this up because I listened to it earlier. 2 questions. Is there, and I don't know what the law around this says, is there a way for parents to like permanently opt out of a seat on a bus? So you're required to provide it, but kind of like the taking your Chromebook home every day, a parent could opt out and say, I will be able to provide it in case of remote learning. Is there any way, and maybe it has to be notarized or something, that a parent could opt out so then you would be able to reduce seats? And I am one of those families that could walk to Highview if the path a block away from us was opened. I could walk there in 2 minutes. I appreciate and love my bus driver that she picks up because she goes by our house, because we don't have a safe way to walk there. And for Highview, there are about 10 kids in my neighborhood going next year to 2nd grade, who, if there was a walking route, could potentially be outside that radius. But since we don't have a safe way to get there, and the road up to Highview, the potholes on it right now are so dangerous. Cars are veering all over. You couldn't even attempt to walk up it now, which I usually have done in the past. I think it's worth exploring both the pathways from neighborhoods into, and if there's any opt-out that would give you legal standing.
That I'm not sure. I'd have to check with Frank.
We do know that there's a calculation on the best safe route. And if that calculation came out with a shorter line between your house and the school, then that would change the equation. Whether we would have to do something legally or anything else, I'm a lot less certain about. Okay, other comments or questions? Hearing none, we will move on. Let's go back to the agenda. And we promised that we would bring Jennifer Belfiore to the towards the front of the agenda at this point. So that is item 12. So that's on page 3. So basically, we have an amount of money dedicated for a phase 3 construction project. And the most popular option when we did a straw poll last time was that we needed to restore, renovate, and upgrade the science labs. And we went over in some depth and detail what needed to happen from an architectural point of view, but we did not talk to the subject matter experts to find out exactly what the kids need, and we should probably start with that and then work our way back. So we asked for someone to come to us from the Woodlands Science Department to speak on that topic. And so I basically have a number of questions for Jennifer Belfiore, and we'll just run through them. Jennifer, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
We'll just
Yeah, I'm
run-
fine.
So tell us about your experience as a science teacher in general, and here at Woodlands, just give us a little background on yourself.
Okay, sure. So I've been a science teacher for probably close to 25 years, maybe longer than that. I've been at Woodlands for, this is my 13th year in the science department. Prior to that, I worked about 10 years to 12 years doing elementary science at the American Museum of Natural History. So I was a on-staff science teacher in the museum in New York City. And then that was all elementary school science. It was pre-K through 8th grade. And then prior to that, I worked in Ossining in the middle school as just a regular Regents Earth Science teacher. I have my science education degree from Teachers College, Columbia University, and I have a bio degree and a women's studies minor from Boston College. So that's my resume in a nutshell. My experience at Woodlands has been very good. I love this community. I've been in this community for 13 years. I really don't want to leave this community. I'm looking to retire in this community. And I feel like the science department in general is a very strong, solid department. I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention that all of the teachers in the department, we have a very good relationship. We work very well with each other. We're in each other's classrooms all the time. We share classrooms. We share all of our materials. And in general, I think we're a very collaborative group of people, which, you know, I've been in public schools in and out, and it's not always that you have a cohesive department, a content area department. So I do think it's worthwhile to say that the department is very solid, and there's a lot of expertise in the department. Okay, next question.
Okay. Very good. So I'm glad to hear you have both elementary and secondary experience. I heard earth science, I heard biology. Are there any other courses that you teach outside those two areas, or those are your two areas of expertise?
Those are my certification areas, but right now I teach the IB science. I've been doing that since the get-go. So I was originally on that committee when they rolled out IB. So I put my hat in the ring to teach an IB science. I teach the environmental systems and societies class, and I've done the training. But I've taught everything from forensics to environmental science to marine biology, astronomy, I don't know, biodiversity. I have a lot of general science knowledge. So in elementary school, you have to teach across the board all the different kinds of sciences. So I have a pretty solid science background.
Very good. So the next question is, what facilities are required to maintain a robust science program at Woodlands? Include biology, chemistry, earth science, physics, and electives such as engineering and forensics. So
right.
What do we need?
So here's what I think, and I actually sent a brainstorming sheet out to my department members in terms of what their immediate needs are. The immediate needs are infrastructure and classroom design. So the classrooms are extremely antiquated, and what we're seeing is that we just cannot implement labs and hands-on experimental I guess activities that are problem solving oriented, because we're kind of limited by the infrastructure of the classroom. So what I mean by that is that we're working in classrooms that don't have sinks, operational sinks. We're working in classrooms that have very antiquated fixed furniture. So this idea of collaborative group work or putting kids in pods because the labs, especially on the third floor, have such fixed furniture, the desks are rammed up front, and the space is really underutilized. Like, it's not efficiently utilized at all. The chemistry room is lacking fume hoods and operational gas. The Wi-Fi, like, I'm talking infrastructure. So ideally, in a 20th century science education classroom, we should be able to set up like lab stations around the room, and we should have really good Wi-Fi capability and computer access around the room. And that's really preventing us from taking kids to the next level with their lab work. You know, like we're not able to load data directly onto Chromebooks because the Wi-Fi is so bad. We need like very good electrical capabilities. So a lot of the outlets in the classroom are non-functioning or unsafe. And the other big thing that came up, which I think is very 20th century, is the whiteboard capabilities. Science rooms nowadays have whiteboards like circumferencing the room. And this old-fashioned style of having the whiteboards in the front of the room and the computer and all the wiring in the front of the room because the teacher is doing a demonstration is a pretty antiquated science education model. So we would like to be able to move around the room. We would like to be able to like draw on multiple walls and have whiteboard and computer access on multiple walls of the room. And then we would like the classroom furniture in the center of the room to be movable and adjustable so that we can create different kinds of configurations.
So is there a conflict between a supply of natural gas and things being movable?
Well, when I speak to Mr. Pugliese about it, I mean, he's been up in the wing a handful of times, and first of all, I know he's in there and he's really wonderful to work with. I feel like you should be able to wire the perimeter of the rooms. You should be able to have electric all around the perimeter of the rooms and plumbing around the perimeter of the rooms. Mm-hmm. And then all of the desks should be able to be movable in the middle, because you can set a group of like 4 kids off to the side to conduct a lab and then bring them back to their desks to do discussion and collaboration.
Got it. Okay.
But the chem rooms in particular are just not, they're just not, I mean, I know this is a live thing, but we need fume hoods in those chem rooms. I mean, the chem teacher is really restricted with regards to what kind of labs he can conduct, because we don't have safe ways of utilizing gas and we don't have proper fume hoods.
Okay. I think I get the general model. So that's going to apply to biology, chemistry, earth science, physics. Are there any discipline-specific things that you need? Is that largely a piece of equipment, or is the generic model the same for all different sciences?
I feel like the generic model is the same. We don't have issues with ordering chemicals. We don't have issues of ordering like certain models or equipments. I mean, every once in a while, you know, will an incubator or something like that might be an expense that we want to invest in. But I also have to say that our chemical storage facilities, where we're keeping all the chemicals and where we're housing all of the lab supplies, is really not up to date. So I think that the chemical storage and where we're storing all of our labware, because we are sharing materials, needs to be looked at.
Okay. Very good. How do we currently meet the 1,200 minute Regents lab requirements?
I know that's an interesting question that you threw in there. I don't see any problems meeting the 1,200 minute lab requirement. I mean, if that's an issue in terms of resources and materials, we don't have a problem meeting that minute requirement. If students are not meeting that minute requirement, it's usually a result or a direct function of attendance. The 1,200 minute requirement is usually completed by all of us by January. So if a kid is entering into the building post-January, like a transfer student, or attendance is so bad, or they're not submitting work, that's where kids don't meet the requirement. But in terms of our capabilities in supplying kids with proper lab activities that would fulfill that requirement, I don't really see that as a challenge. I think the challenge really is how sophisticated do we want our kids graduating with like scientific habits of mind and scientific process skills. That's really the next level of where I think our science labs should be.
Okay. What hands-on science-related experience are students entering college expected to have?
Right. So yeah, so I actually have kids in college. I have a daughter who's studying sciences in college. And a lot of kids come back to me who've majored in science and give me their feedback on, how prepared they were. Students should really be able to process large amounts of data. That's really what I have to say about that. I think that kids, in terms of their critical thinking skills and their ability to like grind out and find patterns in large amounts of data, is a challenge. I think we see the rigor of it in the IB sciences. I think the IB sciences lend themselves to it very much, more so than the AP sciences. The IB sciences are very process oriented, whereas the AP sciences are very content regurgitation oriented. But the kids, they need to be collecting data from elementary school through high school. And that happens when kids have like tools like thermometers, probes, and they have computer capabilities to like generate data tables and graphs that will lend themselves to the analysis of like more sophisticated data. That's what kids need in college. They need to be able to carry out experiments for longer periods of time. They need to be able to sift through large amounts of data. And I feel like on the high school level, we can do it, but we need to have the infrastructure in place so that like I could have a lab that's set up with computers around the room. And then I could have one kid working, on dissolved oxygen while another kid is working on pH, and we should be able to share that data and like, look at it collectively as a class. And that's something that I think the classrooms are kind of missing. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm thinking about a calculus class I watched. I think it was calculus, in which every student had their own little calculator, and then all the calculators were displayed on one central screen, and you could look at the various answers that the kids had and compare the data pretty much live. And that's back in the maybe 2012. I saw that. So we've done things like that here. We just need to make sure everything's wired to allow it. Okay,
exactly.
So that's a slightly different slant than what I had going in. I kind of was thinking, oh, I'm going to college and I've never used a Bunsen burner because I only watched a bunch of demonstrations at the front of the lab, and then I get to college and I have to work twice as hard as the kid sitting next to me because I haven't done those things. But the model's a little bit different here, so I'm happy to hear that. Do we just straying a little bit from the facility side? You've mentioned that you like the IB way of doing things a little bit better than the AP regurgitation model. So training wise for your staff, are we there, or is there or is more training required to bring all the teachers up to speed for IB qualifications?
I think the teachers, well, we have to be consistent with training, science is very content specific, so you can't expect a teacher who's been trained in IB biology to next year be able to teach IB Chem. Like that's, unfortunately, science is very content specific. So if we are building an IB science schedule, we want to make sure that we're finding the right teacher and we're putting the right teacher in their content specialty, because those areas are challenging areas to teach. But I think as we move up through, when they get to the DP level, I think that the training has to come for the teachers that are not in the DP program, but building up to the DP program, because the kids are coming to us really not with the IB state of mind in their junior or senior year. Like they're really the learning curve is enormous. So I kind of feel like the training needs to happen in the earlier years and up through 10th grade.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, feeder program. We started to work on that before COVID dismantled everything. So we need to stay the course. We need to do that again. Okay, we've already talked.
Can I also just add too, I know I'm taking up a lot of time, but if you want kids to have really sophisticated science research skills by the time they're in 11th and 12th grade, there has to be infrastructure into the schedule built in for science research. You can't expect a Regents level course to facilitate the level of science research that you would want out of a kid who maybe is applying to, for Regeneron. That has to be a separately scheduled class, and it really needs to be built into the schedule. That's how you build a really solid, science research program. Like these kids are in science research class from middle school, 8th grade.
Okay, 8th grade and above?
Yeah, I think so.
And Miss Bell,
yeah,
you're amazing. But
Thank you.
When you're talking about 8th grade, you got to remember Bailey feeds into that, right?
Yeah.
So really, they have to have actual science, looking at what actual science is and understanding what experimenting and curiosity and exploring is, feeding from there.
Yes, there has to be built-in science research time. Like you can't you can't squeeze it in. It really has to be dedicated time. That's how some of these districts are pumping out, Intel finalists and Regeneron finalists. These kids are not starting their research in 11th grade. They're starting it in 8th grade.
Okay, very good. You've told us what, I think you've given us an idea of what we need altogether. Can you, given that we have limited resources, which needs are most critical?
I would say for the whole department as a whole, when we're looking at across the board, so we want to be able to, meet the needs of the high flyers as well as, the kids that are running just through a regular science curriculum. The labs need to be up to date. I mean, every lab has to have all working sinks, all electricity capabilities. Wi-Fi has to be throughout. The chemistry labs need gas and fume hoods so that by the time, like you said, they're getting to college, they've had experience using hot plates and they know how to work under a fume hood. I mean, the infrastructure of the classrooms is really the most critical.
Okay. Thank you. Now, those were my questions. Do other people have questions?
I can't see, so you'd have to let me know if someone has a question. I can't tell.
I'm waiting to see if anything pops up on the screen and I can't. Oh, there we go. Dr. Allen.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Thank you very much for a very thorough, comprehensive discussion of what your needs are. I think it would be really helpful if the board and the committee had something in writing where you actually list the deficiencies that you have that need to be corrected, perhaps with some prioritization, like these are the 5 number 1 things that we absolutely must have in order to have a decent program. And then category 2, these are the things that we would like to have that will enhance the program. So that we can, because the things that you've mentioned, it's very expensive and we're always concerned about going to the taxpayers asking for money to do it. But we certainly support having the basics that you need to have to produce good students who will be successful in college.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Oh, wait, we got another one.
Chat question.
Okay. How do schools find time in a schedule for the additional science research class?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought I was muted. That is a challenging thing. I'm not gonna lie. Working on the master schedule is when a lot of people from a lot of different areas have to get together and sort of prioritize what academic programs are important. There's a lot of ways to set up a master schedule so that there's time for everything. I mean, we moved down to an 8-period day, so that did limit us in some of our course offerings, because we used to have a 9-period day. Now we have an 8-period day. Some schools do 6-day cycles where they're block scheduling, and they're allowing longer class periods for content areas, but it's about getting all of the content areas together and looking at, what does the district want to offer? Does the district want to have a robust music program? Does the district want to have a robust art program? Does our district want to have a robust, science research program? And then you have to peel back and work backwards, look what time you have in the schedule and figure out how to build the schedule around it. But, it's very hard to do everything. And so it's really about the admin and the central office, like prioritizing where they want most of the instructional day to be. And then they have to do, they have to meet state requirements as well. It's not an easy thing to do, but it could be done.
Okay. Steve.
I just want to add to, thank you very much for that presentation, but I want to add to the people here as well as online that the future in the job prospect, if you look at Westchester County just alone, the most jobs that are being applied right now and what's coming into Westchester County and even New York are biomedical, research, tech. You're losing a lot of the basic middle jobs that used to be there. Our children have every right to compete in this world. We're sitting here with Regeneron about to open up the biggest lab in the area, and our kids have every right to have some of those jobs. And if we don't give them the opportunity to learn, then, they need to change the schedule around, but we need to change our thinking here in the Greenburgh Central School District that science is going to be here to stay. AI is going to be here to stay. Technology. So we have to rethink. Even plumbing now, you have to understand science. If you're doing electrical work, you have to understand science. So the district has to start rearranging their thought process for science. We need that infrastructure in place for our kids. We need to get them every tool so they can be better people in society and do good jobs, get good jobs. And without it, we're going to be behind. We can't be behind. That's it. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Any other comments or questions? All right, 7:45. So let's go back to item 4 on the agenda. And we'll try and blaze through some of these other topics as quickly as we possibly can. Chris Vallon, are you available to tell us about the Autumn Audit Committee?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, which scroll the one. Well, just as it states here, the New York State Audit Controller's audit is complete. We are still waiting for both reports. Our internal audit is in progress. We are hoping that the first meeting of the audit committee to hear the preliminary results will be either at the end of March or early April. And to that end, we are still seeking community volunteers to serve on the audit committee. So if you are interested in serving, please email me, cvalin, that's C-V as in Victor, A-L-I-N at greenburghcsd.org. That's all.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Energy performance contract rebate credit pending. Lisa, is there any change?
No.
Okay. The facilities fund update. I believe the new piece that we were asking, we established that we have $5.9 million available in the capital reserve. And last time we asked for the repair reserve fund, the balance, and that was $754,327. We have a new draft policy 5630 that the board looked at recently. Could you bring up policy 5630?
A minute, hold on. $630.
All the red writing.
This one?
There it is. You may recall that we had a 5-year plan that was based, and the contents of that plan was based upon what was in this policy. Erie One BOCES comes out with new template policies ever so often. So you want to tell me how this policy evolved? Lisa?
Yes.
Yes.
No, I have no idea. I think it's one that is required, but it's my understanding that the governance committee made modifications to it.
Okay.
According to what they received from Erie BOCES. And Trustee Valen, if you want to speak more on it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the document because I'm in the car. What the governance and policy committee did was the section that's in blue had been struck. We reinstated it. Everything else in red is an Erie One BOCES change, whether it's a strike through deletion or an addition.
So let's scroll down to the section in blue and see what you restored first. There it is.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have it in front of me because I'm in the car trying to find it.
Board of Education may create an advisory committee representing all groups utilizing district facilities and including the individuals it deems appropriate to propose and consider ideas and suggestions in the construction, remodeling, and repair of district facilities. Okay, so that's us. Okay. Building conditions survey, yes. Proceed to ensure the safety of building occupants while construction project is taking place will include notification to parents and staff and community. Scroll down.
Yes.
A plan to ensure that all contractors and workers comply with all health and safety issues. An emergency plan which will address potential concerns with the construction renovation project, including but not limited to evacuation procedures, fire drills, and structural failure. Okay, all good. So then, all the stuff in red is coming out of Erie One BOCES, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
So, okay, so let's scroll back up to the top and we'll work our way through. All right, so struck out text. Not worried about, we're worried about what they're showing us. Overview. The district is committed to providing a healthy and safe environment for all individuals. Construction and remodeling of school facilities will ensure all capital projects comply with the requirements of New York State Uniform Fire Prevention Building Codes. All right, so there's a whole set of codes that are state level and we have to comply with those. That makes sense. Plans and specifications for the erection, enlargement, and repair or remodeling of the district facilities. Plans and specifications to the commissioner will bear the signature and seal of an architect or engineer. We have an engineering firm. All right, scroll down.
Yes.
As we're going to, tell us if any red lights come on over your head or something that you see that's possibly an issue for us. For remodeling construction projects, the district will ensure compliance with requirements of the State Uniform Fire Prevention Building Code. Good. Carbon monoxide detectors. All the facilities will have carbon monoxide alarms. Makes good sense to me. Scroll down, asbestos inspections. Obviously, we have to have those. Okay, written notification to the parents. So we're keeping people informed about asbestos. So yearly written notification to parent, teacher, and employee organizations on the availability of the district's asbestos management plan. That's in the district calendar, is that correct? Does the district calendar, there's a lot of boilerplate in the district calendar. I think there's usually an asbestos management paragraph that says, hey, we have an asbestos. Plan.
We have a plan.
Yeah.
You wanna come look at it?
If you want to have.
And we update it and we're
Yes.
getting rid of our asbestos on a regular basis and all that. Okay, good. Lead testing, I think the same thing, annually. Yeah, I think there's also a Legionella testing, then comprehensive long-range plan. Okay, we need to look at that a little bit more. Scroll down just a little bit, right there. So the district will develop and keep on file a comprehensive long-range plan pertaining to the educational facilities, according to the commissioner's regulations. This plan will be reevaluated and updated at least annually and will include at minimum an appraisal of the following. Educational philosophy, that's boilerplate, we can copy that in. Present and project student enrollments. Okay, so this is the stuff we started working on previously because we were worried that our enrollment was going up. I guess we have to keep this on a regular basis now. Space use and state rated student capacity of existing facilities. So the capacity of each room. Priority of need of maintenance, repair, and modernization of existing facilities, including consideration of the obsolescence and retirement of certain facilities. So for example, the Morton House, we stopped using it and eventually raised it to the. So I guess we have to evaluate all our facilities to see if they're obsolete or not. The provision of additional facilities. So I guess if we were going to open a new school or add a wing to an existing school, that's got to be part of the plan as well. Okay. Comprehensive public school building safety program to ensure that all facilities are properly maintained and preserved and provide suitable educational settings. The board requires all occupied school facilities, which are owned, operated, and leased by the district, to comply with the provisions of the comprehensive public school building safety program. Okay, fine. So then what do we have to do? Building condition surveys. Yes, we do those. Visual inspections. There used to be a visual inspection state requirement, and now that's on an as needed basis instead of every couple of years. Is that correct?
Well, there's different visual inspections. There's one, there's a visual inspection for like a year for the asbestos. There's a 3-month inspection, a 6-month inspection, and then the triennial every 3 years.
Got it. Okay. 5-year capital facilities plan. We have that. Let's see, are the requirements any different? Break down each of the 5 years of the plan. Current or proposed new construction ranked in priority order. Current or proposed additions in priority order. Current or proposed alterations or reconstruction in priority order. So does the building conditions survey handle all of that? Because we have prioritized our building conditions survey. We need to also prioritize our other larger projects. Is that what this requirement is? Is that new?
This is new, yes.
Okay, so this has got to get folded into the plan, assuming this gets adopted. And then major repairs, major system replacements, and energy consumption. Well, yes, we have an energy performance contract, so we have a lot of data on that, but we haven't folded it into our plan. District-wide building inventory, which will include number of type of facilities, age and enrollment, energy sources, probable useful life. Well, that's interesting. So tell me about probable useful life of a building. Is that the roof will last 30 years, or is that
No.
I think this building will fall down in 100 years? What does it mean?
Building in totality.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm not sure we might need to
Investigate that further?
reference from one of the architects there, but.
Fred, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Can you opine upon what it means for the useful life of an entire building?
So it's hard to do an entire building. Usually we have to do an item by item useful life. So for instance, we might say that a cast iron sectional boiler is 40 years. or an electrical panel, maybe 50 years. So when we go through the building condition survey report, we have to show remaining useful life for each of those types of systems individually, not for the building as a total overall, though.
Okay, so we've got, all right, so this is not something you're doing on a regular basis. So we need further guidance on what it means for probably the useful life of a building. We'll see what others can do. Summary of the required triennial asbestos reports, you talked about that. Any other information which may be deemed necessary by the Commissioner of Education. Okay, and now the blue text we've already gone over. So can you scroll down a little bit more?
So wait, David?
Yes.
Am I muted? In the blue text, the second paragraph of building condition survey, strike that paragraph, that's the repeat.
Okay. Second blue text paragraph. Okay. Okay, so scroll down a little bit more. Okay, monitoring systems. The district will establish a process to monitor the conditions of all occupied school buildings in order to ensure that they're safe and maintained in a state of good repair. Health and Safety Committee comprised of representatives from the district official staff. Okay. We have a health committee. We have a safety committee. I guess we cover it. We have two of them. We have establishment of a comprehensive maintenance plan for all major building systems. Annual review of approval by the board of the annual building inspection reports and the 5-year building condition surveys. Procedure for assuring an annual fire safety inspection. Yes, we do that. Procedure assuring that a current and valid certificate of occupancy. We talked about that this year. We're doing that. Procedures for the investigation and disposition of complaints related to health and safety. These procedures will involve the Health and Safety Committee and at a minimum will conform to the following requirements. Okay, and we've got a new worker safety piece. Yes, go ahead.
David, so
yes.
when you see the term Health and Safety Committee, that's a state required committee, and it was determined earlier this year that actually FinFAC is the Health and Safety Committee, because the Health and Safety Committee is defined by NISBA, et cetera. It actually refers to building safety and not safety committee as in the committee, the other committee that you run. So I just want to clarify that right now. And these are we discussed this in FinFAC earlier this year, and those are kind of the items that I wanted to build into our charges, so which are now in this revamped policy. So just wanted to clarify that.
So now, for example, Mr. Siddiqui tries to take his kid to school and finds that there are deep potholes in the driveway, and this constitutes a safety hazard. So he reports that to us, and we respond. Are we covered? Because we are responsive, and we're going to go and fill it. We're going to go and inspect and fill in those holes. We're going to talk about it in this meeting. So we're good, and that's what we should be doing, and that's what's in this policy. Is that correct?
Yes, I just don't know if we want to add a little, if I am where you are you on D6 still? I don't know if you want to add like in parentheses after these procedures will involve the Health and Safety Committee. I don't know if we want to say that in GCSD, that work is done by the Facilities Committee, something like that, just to clarify who that actually is. But we can discuss that later if you want. Okay.
No, that's a very good idea. I think we should add a sentence there to that effect. I don't think we need to come back to it later. I think that's what we need to do. Okay, so recommend that. So we found something. Okay. Provide for written response to all written complaints. So we not only have to fill the potholes, we have to send you back. We have to report on the fact that we filled the potholes, which we do report on what we do. Each month at our FinFAC meetings, and then maybe we need to also respond back saying, hey, we filled the potholes. Okay. The actions, if any, taken to solve the problem, the actions, if any, taken if the complaint involved a violation of law. So are we looking at, do we need a standardized form for this? Because we're doing it informally through email chains and people showing up at meetings and making.
We could create one.
Okay. consider complaint form or request facilities. Oh, well, there is a facilities request form. But
That's
it's
for the youth, that's for the youth.
or public. Okay. All construction and maintenance activities will comply with the uniform safety standards. Okay, good. And then a bunch of, okay, they're outdated reference and this is new references. Okay, so I think I know what my outstanding questions are and I know what my suggestions are. Does anybody else have any comment or question on this policy? Okay, all good. That's the agenda. Five-year facilities plan is item 8 on the agenda. And we talked about, well, obviously, if policy 5630 gets updated and adopted by the board in the next couple of months, then we'll update our plan in accordance with any required changes. BBS, be apprised. Facilities, is there anything else under facilities plan? I don't think. BBS has updated 5-year facilities plan status. We requested additional projects be highlighted. Example, high view window walls and updated costs as per project spreadsheet. Let's see, did we do that? I remember we had the big 4 projects before, and then we had several smaller projects that we wanted to get credit for working on. Has that happened yet? Fred, are you aware? We had phase 1.
I thought we sent that over, yeah, and I thought Lisa was working on that as well, no?
Good, so bring up spreadsheet.
I think we updated all that. Now, is
Yeah.
that the list that had been sent to identify for the next bond? Is that the spreadsheet that's referring to?
We're talking about projects that we're doing that that didn't get listed as having made progress on them. Okay, so we went through and said, here's everything in the BCS. Here are the things that were in phase 1, like the ventilation project, and we took all of those and said, okay, that's partially done. So we get credit for having done that. And we go and we say, okay, now here's the stuff that's in phase 2, where we're gonna do all this stuff to all these roofs. So we got stuff for that. Here's the energy performance contract that we've got the ball rolling on, and it's gonna fix all our furnaces. So we get credit for that. So we went through and took the BCS and highlighted all the pieces that we're already working on. And we did like the big 3 or 4 items, and then there were a couple of smaller ones, and high view window walls was one of them. That was just a smaller project, and so it hadn't been designated as one of the things that we've done. I think we was it like 26% of the contents of our building conditions survey is in one form or another being addressed by the efforts that we have made so far from our 2020 building conditions survey. So is that percentage slightly higher because we've got a bunch of little projects where we're fixing things as we go? We'll take a look and make sure that those are in there too. Okay, very good. Anything else in item 8? Moving on, facilities aid, the system award management grant, the 500K from former Assemblyman Tom Avenanti for the RJ Bailey Auditorium. The 500K from Andrea's for Cousins for the track, we know about that. The $174,000, some of which will go for a gas line for one of those science labs we talked about earlier, and for eye wash stations. So that's aid that's coming in. Lisa, do you want to talk about the American Rescue Plan? Is there any change to that? Okay. Fine. Then the business office has an updated project spreadsheet that we can look at a future meeting, because it's now after 8 p.m. Item 12, phase 3 science lab Q&A with Jennifer Belfiore, we've done. So then on to phase 3 proposal. And you may recall that in the last couple of months, we have gone over various ideas. We have that $5.9 million, and we have a willingness to bond a maximum of 5 to 8 million if we feel that the fiscal environment will stand it. That's not happening with this budget cycle, but may happen at some point in the future. And the question is, what's the highest priority? We came up with 6 different items that were amongst the most popular. They were upgrading the science labs, priority 1 and 2 building conditions survey package. Dave Bridgelaw came up with miscellaneous things that were listed as high priority when we prioritized all our items. At about 2.7 million plus a little bit more in terms of what that cost. Exterior shelves, we've got a bunch of roof projects, but the exterior walls mostly and doors and windows, $21 million worth of those were we could hack away at part of that. We talked about mansion ventilations. We have this mansion with a nice new roof on it. But in order to move at least the administration back into the building, we need to at least ensure that the HVAC is as good as that of a modern building, just as we did for all the other schools due to COVID. We want that ventilation to be good too, and that's either 2.63 million, or if you do everything that's required to get people back in there, I think it's as high as $3 million. And then there was the idea of the ECP classrooms at Lee-F. Jackson. And the general idea is that if we had more ECP classrooms, we could either move all the students to ECP or increase the capacity for us to have ECP students. And so there are a couple of different options for that, a $14 million and an $11 million option. And then soccer field upgrades, the centerpiece being possibly an artificial turf field for the soccer players, and additional upgrades to the field, the surrounding area for $2.4 million. So those were the top 6 items that we came up with. We did a little straw poll last meeting and found that the most popular thing were the science labs, which is why we brought in our guest speaker. And so now the next thing to worry about is, okay, we have this committee, we have voting members, and on a formal basis, we should figure out which of these things has the highest priority, and then we can cobble together a project or pieces of projects into phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, based on that priority. So I'm thinking at this point that we have enough knowledge to where we need to get people's opinions, get them to weigh in. So one simple way of doing that is just to have a little matrix of priorities. And could you bring that up, Luke?
Yes, I'm looking for it. You get signed out.
For those of you at home who can look, there's a file called Project Priorities 3724.xlsx. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and I just basically listed the projects and allowed us to plug things in. So there we go. So if you look here along the first column, you have the names of all of the people who have been approved by the board as community members, who are part of or voting members of this committee, and or the 3 board members that are also on the committee. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Are you able to type into it? That's the most important thing.
Yes.
Okay, good. And then across the various columns, for each column, we have the 6 projects. We have the Woodland Science Labs in the first column, then the priority 1 and 2 building condition survey items, then exterior shells, then mansion ventilation, then ECP classrooms at Lee-F. Jackson, and then the soccer fields. And if you look down at the bottom, so the idea is that you prioritize the projects as you like it. And so I, David Warner, have filled in my preferences here already as an example. And so I think the most important thing is Woodland Science Lab. So I put in a 1 for that. And then the next most important thing, I would open things up for I would ventilate the mansion and move and free up space in Woodlands High School. So that's my priority 2. I think that the ECP classroom thing is relatively important, so that's my priority 3. Then priority 1 and 2 BCS items also somewhat important, but I do the other projects before that, so it's a 4. And then the soccer fields is a 5. The soccer fields are something that I will fill in with a project I consider more important. So that's my rationale for my numbers. Now, what's going to happen is you see the totals across the bottom. As different people fill in their priorities, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then the totals will change because basically it's the sum of what's in each column, and then the item or column with the lowest number total wins. Okay, has the highest priority. So what I'm going to ask each person to do, and if they can do it now, great. And if we feel we need more time, then we'll do it through emails or some other way. But we'll start filling in those priorities and see how people feel overall about the projects as a whole. Jessica.
We need edit access. At least I only have view only.
Okay.
This is, oh, do you want to do the online one? This is the offline one.
Right.
Is it a Google Doc?
So people want to, there's 2 ways to do it. You can do call and response and tell us what your preference is in, and we'll fill it in for you, or we can make it writable so that people can get at it.
Yeah, the one in the folder. If we can get edit access.
Let me look at it. Hold on.
Okay, so let's see if we can get edited.
So you might have to log in again, Mr. Warner, to do this.
In order for you to
make it, yeah, hold on a second.
You can get at it and
Yeah, they're trying to.
log in if you need me to.
Yeah, so we need access to this. We're gonna have to log in again. Hold on a second. Let me stop sharing.
It's all gonna have to.
I don't know what happened to your login, but here, sign in again.
Okay. And not the rest of it.
We're in. Page from there.
Got it.
So trustee Warner, Dennis just brought up a good part about the science rooms. If you're gonna do the science rooms, then the windows have to be done in the science.
I would recommend you're gonna have, casework, all the mechanicals, when you go to change the windows, you're gonna have pipes and stuff where you need to have a consideration of how the casework is, even if it's a modular classroom. Because the perimeter is like where the electrical is gonna be, where the gas pipe is typically gonna be, wouldn't have that in the middle of the room. That's gonna be up against the window wall. So that's something you need to consider. Right now we have the casework that's, 3 feet out from the walls. But even if we went with the modular setup for the movable desks, you would still have to have somewhere along that wall. Like the desks or sinks, because you wouldn't want those in the middle of the room, everywhere.
So what that means,
The increased Wi-Fi, the newer electrical and the smart boards on every wall, you wouldn't want to have the windows leaking onto those, you would have to mount them somewhere.
so that what that means,
That's a consideration.
from my perspective then, is that the price tag goes up further than it has, and as a result, probably then the entire project will end up being just renovating the science labs.
We even want to do at least the elevations that contain the science slabs.
In that area where.
Because typically, they're up and down on each floor, which is front and back, that's. They call it an elevation, like one side of the building, that's something to consider about.
Try editing it now. I'm gonna share the screen.
Yep, it's good.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
All right, so let's allow a few minutes for people who feel like they wish to enter their own preferences.
Steve, you want to tell your number?
I can tell you what.
Yeah.
We could put it in.
Yeah.
Luke can put stuff in.
Yeah.
You wanna go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, the science is number 1. Exterior number 2.
What was that, sorry?
Exterior shells.
Exterior
Yeah.
shells. The ECP classroom. Priority 1 and 2. Soccer field
Hi, what do you want me to put in for you?
and mansion ventilation.
Okay. And no one else in the room has voting privileges.
I think.
Are we gonna give the other
Jeff
people a
is
chance?
entering some of the
Yeah.
numbers for them. And Dr. Allen is in the process.
Okay.
We're gonna give everybody else a chance who's not here or.
Who's not here? Well, what does the committee want to do? Let's get what we can first and see how things look. And then if there are holes and gaps, I mean, there are 2 ways to do it. You take what you've got, or we track down each person and get their numbers and have them send us emails. We can do that if you want.
Let's see.
You mentioned I'm in process, but I'm not sure how I feel about the others, so you can consider my voting finished.
You can't leave blanks. It'll make a mess.
Okay.
David, are you having the same problem I have with not getting people to vote?
As decisive a person as Carol Allen has difficulty with this. Okay.
Tracy, are you not in the document? Do you need them to type in your answers?
I am not in the document, sure. I had stepped away for a minute. Just give me a second.
Wait.
Mr. Warner, is it okay if I sign off now? I have to attend to my family.
Yes, if you already voted, right? So we're good.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'd vote. This is Jennifer.
For Bill Shields.
Oh, no, you can certainly, so you might have wanted to stay to see if science was winning, but
I did.
Science is so go ahead.
Okay, I thank you very much, everybody. I do very much appreciate you allowing me to speak, and the department thanks you.
Thank you.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Giovanna asked if she can email her answers. I wonder if wants you to.
She can do it, or we can have somebody type it in.
Yes.
Giovanna Itzaguerra. Wait a minute.
She can't do it?
Giovanna.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm using my phone and I cannot see nothing there.
Okay, what is your priority?
What I want to hear is what is the recommendation from the school? Like what is really needed?
So Giovanna's gonna put 1 in soccer fields, because I know you've been talking about soccer fields, Giovanna. Is that accurate?
Yes, I do believe that, but I mean, I am a strong soccer mom, but there are so many other things that
Okay, so with everything that everyone's been talking about all of these weeks, what priority do you put then? There's a science labs, number 1. The BCS, which is the building condition survey, which is fixing many different buildings, the exterior shells of the buildings, the mansion ventilation, ECP classrooms at Lee F. Jackson, or the science fields. Excuse me, soccer fields.
Exterior shells is mostly windows.
Yeah, but I believe they said that that's very important. Like that was one of the recommendations from the school. So I guess I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, exterior shells, okay.
So how many votes you do? One? You just pick one?
6 different things. So left you have the science labs, the building condition survey, mansion ventilation, ECP.
Okay, then I can do the second, the science lab.
Now, you understand now the soccer fields are not there. So number one is for her was exterior shells. Number two was the science labs.
Yes.
So I have only two choices. That's what I'm saying.
No,
Four more.
1, 2, 4, 5, 6.
No, now what's next? Next is either the building condition survey, the mansion ventilation, ECP classrooms at Lee F. Jackson, or the soccer fields. I keep saying science, or the soccer fields.
Well, then I will do that both for the soccer field.
So 3 soccer fields. Now you have the building condition survey, mansion ventilations, or ECP classrooms at Lee F. Jackson.
The ECP classrooms.
That's 4. Now you have building condition survey or mansion ventilation.
I guess the condition survey.
Okay, that's 5. Mansion ventilation is 6. Great. David, I'm gonna do 1, the mansion ventilation, 2, the science labs, 3, ECP classrooms at Lee F. Jackson, 4, BCS priority 1 and 2, 5, the exterior shells, and 6 soccer fields.
Okay, and I think Carol Allen, she's got everything but number 5, so we just need a.
No, I put in 5 as the priority 1 and 2 of the building condition survey.
Okay. Good. All right, so is there anyone present who has not filled things in? Okay, so the totals at this point, with 15, the science labs are our winner for phase 3, hands down. The second item would be the exterior shells. And then we have ECP classrooms close behind that. Then we have building condition survey, and finally the soccer fields. If you like, I can try and go chase down Dave Bridgelaw, Linda Lee, and Walter Simon and see what gets added to that, just for completeness sake. But I think we have a pretty good idea of how people feel about things. So I think we have our marching orders, and we will attempt to come up with a proposal based upon the priorities that we've gained. All right, any comments or questions on this item? That's good progress.
Sorry,
Yes.
Dave. Quick comment. If this, and this may not have a clear answer, if the science labs were to go ahead, and someone had mentioned this at last meeting, would the windows on those rooms get done as the rooms get done? So it's a complete package. So like kind of taking little snippets of the windows out at different times.
And science lab project. So we will certainly get numbers for that.
Like it just makes sense if you're making 4 or 5 or however many classrooms up to high standards, you don't want rain coming in on them.
Correct. Okay, so we do the science lab windows along with the science lab. We've got these ideas that you want to make sure that you can share data freely with good Wi-Fi all around the room, that you have whiteboards and you're not stuck in the stage on the stage model, but you can, have a problem solving setup with movable furniture and the whole 9 yards. We'll price it all out and see what our total cost is based upon our input from Jennifer Belfiore, as well as the stuff we discussed last time and the windows. Okay, sounds like a plan. Anything else? Okay, so now 8:26. So let's go now to the regular portion of the standardized portion of our agenda. So now that's phase 2 construction project, and we need to bring up the BCS building condition. The BBS architects report on various large projects. So look for a file that starts with BBS. There, it's right in the center. There it is. Bring that up. Fred, I know Mike Messina's out, so I need you to shepherd us through this, this project list. Tell us what's
Sure.
going on.
Absolutely. So the first item on there is construction manager RFP response. I don't know if we have an update on that. I don't know if there's any update on your end.
Yep, it went out, it's going out it's being sent to the paper Monday. Mike asked for it to be available on the 14th and it's opening April 11th, I believe.
Okay. So the next item is the vestibule. I think we'll get to that in a minute because I noticed you did have some floor plans in there, so we might as well talk about that at that point. The administration building, we're getting closer. The punch list work is still ongoing, but we're very, very close to being completed on that. The phase 1 capital work at Highview, Jackson, Bailey, Woodlands, and ECC are all basically kind of the same as what we talked about last time. So mostly substantially complete. We're in punch list and closeout on all of those. So we're in very good shape, hoping to get those closed out within the next month or so.
Okay.
The water main fire hydrant project, that was approved. We have redone the spec on that and the project is going to be bid sometime later this month. We have to coordinate dates with Lisa to get that out on the street. So we'll be in touch with her to make that happen. And I do apologize, as you said, Mike had surgery today, actually, so he was not able to make the meeting tonight, but he will be giving Lisa a call shortly in order to coordinate that. The auditorium renovations, again, right now, the PO for the seating has been sent out to a vendor on co-op bid, so that's good. And we're going to be bidding that work the same time we bid the roof replacement project once that project is or approval is issued by SED. So we're assuming that's going to be sometime spring, summer of 2024. So within the next couple of months, those two will go out to bid together.
Let's look at the next page. Is there something on the roof on the next page?
Tennis courts have been submitted to SED. We're awaiting approval. Unfortunately, SED right now is at approximately 6 months review timeline. It's shot way up over the last couple of months. So we're probably looking at getting comments sometime June or July of this year. Same thing with the Woodlands Middle School, High School running track. The Highview Elementary School partial window replacement is technical review is still required. So we got fiscal review. That's good. That's sometimes the hard part, but technical review by the architects is still pending. So again, we're probably a month or so away from getting comments on that. And then hopefully we'll get approval and we can get that out to bid. For the energy performance contract, we did get some good news. They actually started on their technical review on February 23rd. We have not gotten comments back from State Education Department on that yet, which is probably not a good sign because they've been working on it for a couple of weeks, which means we're probably going to get a boatload of comments, but we are hopefully going to be receiving those within the next week or so. The RJ Bailey partial roof replacement, the auditorium. So we're going to bid that in March, April with the interior alterations as we discussed earlier.
Good.
The partial roof replacement on flat roofs at Bailey, that was submitted to SED in December. So again, we're looking at 6-month lead time on that. So probably get review and approval sometime in May. Same thing with the middle school, high school roof replacement that was submitted to the state. So we're probably looking at May for getting comments on that as well. We're hoping that as they go through the spring, that review time period will decrease because usually their heavy time is in the fall when everybody sends their projects. Their review timeline goes way up. So I'm hoping as we go through the spring, their review timeline is going to start to come back down again. We'll be able to get some of these projects a little bit sooner. The science labs. So now that's the budget grant that we had talked about before. So we are awaiting secret and environmental reports and, getting that ready to go up to the state.
Okay, so now Chris Vallon, you had a question?
Yeah, so I was talking to someone the other day, I don't want to call them out, but feel free to speak up. Because we have the.
You're muted.
Two different pieces? How does that work if there happens to be two different vendors doing that roof where the seams meet? If there's ever an issue, like who's responsible for what? Can you just talk to that point for just a second?
Yeah, the roofs actually don't touch each other. So there won't be a seam in between the two roofs. They're at different roof elevations. The auditorium is a different elevation as the rest of the roof that we're doing. So that should not be an issue on that roof.
Okay. Okay. Super. All right. Sorry guys, I have to go to my other meeting, but thank you very much. See you soon.
All right, thank you. Jessica.
In one of our PTA meetings, the question had come up, like, what is kind of the timeline for some of this completion? So it's helpful to know paperwork's been submitted to the state. So like the tennis courts and running track, once we get that paperwork reviewed, what's a general timeline on those?
Well, typically, depending upon how we procure the services, we cannot take bids back on a project until after we have SED approval. So if we get SED approval, let's say on June 1st, we'll have the project out to bid beforehand. We can't take bids back until, say, the second week in June. Then we have to review the bids and then hopefully award them. I don't know when if there's a second board meeting in June, we'd be able to award those at, and then hopefully get work started during the summer, during July. It's going to be up to the review timeline, unfortunately, as to where SED is right now. When we had formulated all of these timelines back in the fall and early winter, SED was 12 to 14 weeks review time. So that's what we were going on as we were giving everybody, timelines as we were discussing them earlier. After we sent these up to the state, all of a sudden SED jumped by, 2 months or 2.5 months. So that's kind of our constraining factor right now. So as I said, hopefully that will come down as we go through the spring and we'll be able to get things early enough. But, we're still going to have to bid them. We're still going to have to award them and then start construction.
Okay, so still a few months after SED approval, and we know that's not in anyone's control. And I think this just goes to we have a lot of stuff in the pipeline, and kind of seeing stuff come to fruition will then help us kind of push for the next project. So being able to keep like all the PTA units updated on where things stand, they can then inform the parents at the different schools, which is just a way of keeping the communication going from here.
Right. And what we'll do is as we get closer to getting SED approval, we'll watch the numbers. So we get a project login number when we send it up there, and then we can see what projects they're reviewing at any given time. So as we start to get close, then what we'll do is start to have conversations with the administration and figure out when we want to put it out to bid, when the next board meeting is, that we'd be able to award that and coordinate that as best we can.
Which means we might end up needing some kind of summer meeting just to approve a project plan to go forward. Let me ask you, shifting gears a little bit. So I think there's usually the summer that I know there's football training. How disruptive is track work? Is it something that happens as if you were paving the road next door and one day you're working on it and the next day it's okay to be there? Or is this something that's gonna block off the field for a significant period of time?
It's most likely gonna block off the field for, I'll say, a 4-week period of time. Once asphalt is down, we can put plywood on top of it if you need to get on and off of that. You can't be on the track itself, but you can cover the track, protect the track, and just have a walkway going back and forth across it and get to the field. So there are ways to work around it. Then once we do the structural spray, the rubberized coating, again, you'll have to be off it for a couple of days as that cures. But again, we can put a sidewalk, plywood sidewalk going across, and then we'll have to do the striping, the line work. And then again, you'll have to be off it for a short period of time as that dries and cures as well.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so I think at this point, unless there are other questions, we should skip back to the vestibule, because there's an outstanding issue with that. Anybody have any other questions other than the vestibule? Okay, so there are a couple of pictures we probably want to look at. So let's go back to the file. So first you've got, I think there are 3 pictures. There's Hughes Hall is what things look like right now. If you're inside of the front area next to the auditorium, so you know nobody's going in and out through there. People are entering and exiting through the side entrance of the front of the high school while work is going on outside. And we have 2 pictures of the outside. We have an old picture. This is what things looked like until recently. And until after the last cold snap, it took a while. They poured the new concrete. You can see the outline in the cement of where the new area should be. And then there's the storefront, and that's the other picture. And so now they started adding things, and you can see we have a couple of double doors here. You have a second set of double doors inside. And then probably you'll have your guard booth off to the side there that'll control entrance. You'll come in and be able to sign in, and then they can let you into the rest of the school or not. The problem being that you see those 2 big green pillars. We were supposed to have more than just 2 doors there. And there should be possibly a 3rd door, and possibly, if you talk to the principal, he thought of maybe having a 4th door, but that's an issue. So now that we need to take a look at the plans. So now there's a plan, yeah, right there, vestibule diagram. Okay, and you'll see those 2 pillars down at the bottom, and you've got the 2 36-inch doors on the right, and then you've got the 36 egress only, meaning you don't put a handle on it so it doesn't get caught on the pillar. A door for letting you get out. And then, so if you're coming out, you have 4 doors from the inside. If at the end of the day, your kids are going out towards the buses, the way it's set up there, you now have, some room to get out from the 2 double doors. Maybe that 3rd door could open. And then if you wanted the amount of traffic that's coming in from the 4 doors, you might have to send some people off to the side through the new set of double doors. And the question is that acceptable? As opposed to having 2 sets of double doors going through, or having the 30-inch wide door? And if so, then that left-hand pillar, lower left-hand corner of the drawing there to the left of that red arrow, might have to go away. Have I characterized this accurately? Dennis, do you want to make a few comments on this?
I know that Mr. Smith had voiced some concerns about I guess the conversation that took place over the years ago with, I guess he's one of the few that still has a history of what transpired between the administration, who's now with us, gone. The lead architect is
passed away,
unfortunately not with us, and so he is one of the ones with the history. He also voiced some concerns about the doors being skewed over, if they wouldn't be even. He says, he had voiced concerns like if this was Pleasantville or Scarsdale, he would hear some flack, put it that way,
You bet. So now if we wanted to go with 4 doors, then we would have to eliminate the pillar, and the pillar supports the canopy up above.
Correct.
And so that means we would have to do something else.
Solid concrete, it's substantial also, I guess.
Okay, so then the question is, before we say yes or no, or have a debate as to whether we really need the 4 doors for safety, the question is, how much would it cost if we had to somehow support the canopy in another way, or have erect another pillar, right? What's the best solution that costs the least amount that would allow for the 4 doors? So Fred, can we get an estimate on that?
We've actually reached out to some contractors to get some estimates. You're not going to be able to fit 4 doors there though, because you have that concrete column outside, but then you also have a column just to the left of that, right there. That's an interior column that's holding up the roof of the building. And therefore that can't be moved or taken out either. So you're not going to be able to fit a 4th door in that location. There's just not enough room.
So then your option is to get a wider door instead of a 30-inch door if you move that pillar, and that's it basically as far as you can go?
So as far as moving the pillar outside, we really can't do that. That's a structural pillar. There's 4 of them that hold up that canopy. There's the 2 that you see in this picture, and there's 2 that are out further by the stairs. We can't move them. It's part of the structural system. So if we wanted to put them somewhere else, we would have to demolish the entire canopy and build a different canopy with the pillars in a different location. So they can't just be moved over a couple of feet or anything like that. It's just not possible with the structural system that's there now.
Yeah, but won't that have its own? Why do you need a canopy? If you have that building and it has a roof, why do you need a canopy? I don't know.
Yeah, so what's the utility of the canopy? What do we need it for?
Typically, the utility of a canopy is to allow people to wait out of the rain if they're waiting for a bus or a car to pull up for, car pickup or something like that. They're standing outside of the door waiting to be let into the building. That's the typical purpose of a canopy.
So then you could do the same thing with an awning?
You could do the same thing with an awning, yes.
It's just that
Long.
it's this long, okay.
How much does it cost to take down the thing?
Right, what would it cost to demolish the canopy and put up an awning?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
What would it take to demolish the canopy and put up an awning?
So we're getting prices on demolition of that canopy as well. And then we will get some prices on an awning and get back to you. Just to go back in history, we had originally developed 4 different schemes for the security vestibule. This is the scheme. It was actually option 2 out of 4 that the Board of Education approved. This was the scheme with the 3 doors on the outside that were approved by the district. So the 3 doors have been discussed since the district selected that option 2. So it's always been 3 doors. It was never 4 because we knew we couldn't fit a 4th door in. So, I know the principal is talking about things now, but the reason that we're a little bit tighter than where we had hoped to be, and we're talking about that single door making that a 30-inch door, is that during the process, the contractor came back and said, hey, how would you like ballistic glazing on the outside doors and the outside framing system? And it was about a $3,000 upcharge. And the district said, yes, actually, we would like that. What the contractor didn't take into account is that the framing system on ballistic glazing is thicker and wider than the framing system on standard glazing is. So when he sent his shop drawings over, which showed us how he was going to build it, he said everything fits fine with a 36-inch door. However, when he got out there in the field and he said, uh-oh, this isn't going to fit. This is a problem. Can we switch that to a 30-inch door instead of a 36-inch door? So this is on the contractor. When we looked at the shop drawings and approved them, it showed that everything fit okay. He misdimensioned things, and it was not drawn properly to scale. So this is on the contractor at this point. So any discussions that we are going to start having with the contractor tomorrow are going to be that you own this. And if it's a upcharge to go to a 30-inch door and change the framing, that's your problem, because you showed that everything was going to fit and it does not fit the way it was originally proposed. As far as the handle on that single door, we would do a recessed handle on it so that it's not a problem as far as the handle hitting the column. And you would still maintain the egress as was discussed. What this drawing doesn't show is that on the right-hand column, there's actually a video intercom system there. That one, yeah, that one right there is a video intercom system there. You can see the camera in the corner there, just to the right of that. Yeah, that's a camera. So as somebody approaches the double set of doors, that's a visitor's entrance because it's on the side where the security office is located. They will approach that. They will push the button on the video intercom. They will have a conversation with the person in the video office. If that person feels that they should be let into the vestibule, there's an electric door strike that they will hit at their desk, unlocking the outside set of doors, that double set of doors. That person will then walk into the vestibule, will have a conversation with the security office, and that security office will decide whether they should be let into the building or not. If they're just dropping something off, he might say, please leave it in the lobby, and I'll come out and get it, and we'll get it to your son or daughter. If they are concerned that that person is agitated or does not have any business in the building and they don't want to let them in, then the inside set of doors stay locked. So that person cannot get into the building at that point. It's a secure vestibule. However, if they decide that that person is entitled to come into the building and should be in the building, then there's another electric door strike that the security person would hit and would open the inside set of doors to allow that person access into the building. So that's how the security vestibule is designed and laid out. That 30-inch egress door, which shouldn't say egress, actually, that's going to be ingress and egress. That is the staff entrance, so that will have card access, so that if somebody has a card key, they can walk up and just walk into that entrance without having to be buzzed in by security. So that would be that single door to the left there. Yeah, right there. So on that column will be a card access point, and they'll just put their card up against that. That door will unlock and they'll walk into the building. So that's how the security vestibule has been designed. That's what was reviewed, discussed with the principal many years ago, and approved by the board. So this is the scheme that we've been using since then. And that's how it's designed to work.
So the Raptor machines will be next to the security desk?
Yes.
As they are in our current internal guard booth? Okay.
Yeah.
And are we getting rid of the internal guard booth?
That's in-house, that's not them, yes.
Okay, that's a different, all right, or so trying to do with the students or whatever's gonna happen. Okay, fine. All right, so I think you've made your position fairly clear, and anything above and beyond that is beyond the purview of this committee. We have suggested our options, which is bring us some estimates, and then we'll go from there. All right, thank you. Are there any
What are
other
you
questions?
asking for estimates of, Mr. Warner?
To remove the canopy and put a awning.
And make a wider door, right? So if the principal is worried that when he goes to evacuate his building, and he wants everybody to flow quickly out to the buses straight up the steps. And we tell him, oh, you've got two large doors, and you've got one that's only a 30-inch door, and he wanted two doors, right? Or actually 4 doors, going straight up, and can't get that. Then we come back and we tell him, okay, if you want this third door to be a 36-inch door instead of a 30-inch door, we've got to move this pillar. And that means the canopy goes away and you put an awning in its place, or some solution along those lines. Here's the cost. Do we feel that it's a big enough safety issue to only have a 30-inch door instead of a 36-inch door, or are we okay?
Isn't the door issue or cost the contractor because they made the mistake? That's not our cost. The canopy, we would have to worry about the canopy and the awning.
Not to do it.
We don't write for it.
And I'm
you know,
trying
we're
really
not-
hard not to have this discussion in the open session, but yeah, we will deal with how this gets paid. We can in open session talk about how much it costs. And then the parties can negotiate.
Mr. Warner, I'd like to point out that if you're doing a quick building evacuation, everybody is not going to come out of that front door. They'll be using the closest possible exit. So if we're talking about changing this because of the need for an evacuation, I don't think that's a valid reason to try and make a change.
You got the other two doors on the left.
Yes, we do. They can flow in two different directions.
So you really got 5 doors.
Right? And there are other exits from the building to the outside that can be used.
There are many other exits.
Right?
Correct.
And to
Yeah.
come in and talk about taking down the canopy, which would be a major deal because these are supporting beams, I don't think we should even consider that.
All right, I'm expecting that the cost will be prohibitive, but I want to at least grant people the dignity of having the numbers.
If we know it's going to be very expensive, it's really a waste of time for the people who will have to put together that estimate. And I'd rather we work on other things that we know are going to be feasible.
Okay, Jessica?
I fully agree with Carol. Like unless there was a huge safety reason around not like for this change, this is so many years in the process. It's ridiculous that like a change is being requested. If it's the only thing should be safety. And I agree, like we should not be spending time, money on addressing something just because now someone's looking at things a different way. This is shocking that there's like, oh, can we do? No, if we've got what we've got, we got to move forward. We have so many other projects.
Okay, so we now have a disagreement. Can we just kind of straw poll it? Can you just bring up the screen? So I just want to just generally from a show of hands. If you feel that we should have an estimate, then click the icon to raise your hand. Or else raise your hand visually, one or the other. Okay, if you feel that we should not have an estimate and just go with kind of what we've got here, then raise your hand now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, okay, it appears the nays have it, okay. So the recommendation of the committee is that we're done.
Work on the door.
Work on the door.
Work on the door.
Okay.
Got it. I'm afraid you can scrap that. Yeah, no, that's.
I will forward that to the board, okay. Okay, smaller projects? Mr. Pugliese, run us through it.
Do they?
We're at 5 to 9, we gotta get out of here.
Spread and speed, you said?
Okay. ECP.
Minutes, sorry.
What?
Go back to the.
Go back to the agenda.
Okay, yeah, sure, 1 second.
All right, ECP,
It's a just.
ECP main building, no changes this month. LF Jackson.
The 3 telephone poles, there's some pictures of telephone poles, can you just bring those up? So our board president pointed out that there are telephone poles near ECP that are less than straight. Right, so there's one where there's an old telephone pole and a new one that's slowly superseding it.
Yes, I reached out to, it turns out, I had evaluated by our electrician. The fiber cables that are attached to the ECP building from that pole, which is the new one, which would be in the background there.
right?
The one that was leaning was the older poles that still have the fiber optic attached. Technology, technology reached out to Verizon to have them attach the old fiber optic poles onto the newer
Wires
poles.
under the new phone. Okay, got it.
And once
The old pole
we
comes
do
out.
that, we could abandon those poles.
Okay, good.
The leaning ones, two of them, there's another one down towards the bus garage also.
Okay, that's it.
And then we would be able to take a cable, once we lengthened the fiber optic going to the ECP building. Right now, if we were to try to put a cable on it and cinch it back, we would disconnect from the building, so we don't wanna do that. We need to lengthen the cable that goes from the crooked pole to the ECP building. And then we could put another stanchion in the back.
Okay.
And there's another pole here that's also, that one hasn't changed, since I've been around. I asked the electrician, he said that one's been like that for a while. It's tethered in the back, and it's also, tethering there's a diagonal where the poles switch right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, we can change a pole, but it is costly. That's the cost.
That's a 20K per pole.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial per pole, because then, it's the pole is a certain amount, and then you have to have the contractors, the linesmen have to work on it,
Okay.
12 hours also, yep.
Okay.
So, that's the ECP main building. LF Jackson, we talked about no change, the down coil will be part of the energy performance contract. There was a leak that we had in the coach's office by the gym. I'm happy to report that that was repaired.
Oh, good.
Highview, no significant changes this week. The RJ Bailey, the boiler.
Potholes.
Potholes and.
Bring up there's an email from Faisal Siddiqui. This is that process, right, in which the public comes and says, hey, you need to fix something. The Highview potholes.
Would it be?
Yeah, there it is.
We have a suggestion.
That was it, yeah, there you see the yes, and he actually diagrammed, so there's so Highview is in the right-hand side, right, there's the driveway coming up from the parking lot. So I assume that the parking lot is
Where are the
split with town of Greenburgh, but the driveway is ours?
Where's the pictures of the potholes?
That's
Those
just on
squares,
like,
those are the
I've
locations.
been over to Highview several times this week. What happened, I guess, over the last rainstorm, we had a little pothole on the other side by one of the speed bumps. And it got significantly worse during the last couple of days. That we had heavy rains that affected some flooding in the teacher center building.
Okay, so what are we going to do about it?
So I reached out to the paving contractor. It was raining the other day, and I called them again today to patch the pothole. Potholes going up the roadway.
Okay, when will that happen?
As soon as possible, he told me.
Which is?
As soon as he can get
As soon as he
that's it, and it stops raining.
Is that days? Is that?
No.
I say within
Yeah,
the
I
next
would say within the next few days, and weather permitting.
Okay.
If you do it in the rain, it just doesn't hold up when it's wet.
Yeah.
It's a small patch, probably a wheelbarrow. Cold. You can do cold patch, but it's better, if it's a warm patch.
Another question.
Okay, Gabriella? Oh, wait, Megan, I'm sorry, Megan?
Two questions, no, two questions.
Two hands.
We got two hands, Megan first and then Gabriella.
So on the way to Highview, I am a little confused as to what is the school district's responsibility versus what is the town's responsibility, because it's certainly more than one pothole, and it is becoming quite dangerous because you have to veer around them, and then you have traffic coming in both directions. So the pickup situation is becoming quite treacherous each day there. There is one really significant pothole, but there are many along that road.
It's like the moon craters down on the lower parking lot. There's some
How far up does the town go?
discrepancy there. There's a right of way, and the town's parking lot is in horrible shape. And that also includes our right of way driveway.
Okay, so there's more than just.
I had reached out to the Parks Department and said, listen, we need to do something with this, like when I plan on doing the roadway to go up to the road, like we did the upper one. Now we gotta do the roadway come down. The school property is at least down to the guardrail, but there is a right of way also, so I said, you know, we're paving all this, we need to try to do it together, there needs to be some coordination, and I'm not sure, I heard that the park is responsible for the lower part of the parking lot with all the moon craters, but I don't know, but either way, it needs to be addressed, and I reached out to them, and we have to do something.
Okay, so there's patching and paving.
Yeah.
So paving, you're looking at what time frame? You gotta negotiate it with the town. Is it in this year's budget? Is it in next year's budget?
Maybe, I don't know, it all depends on when funds are available. And you know, paving isn't cheap, so if we have funds available at the end of this year, yeah, sure. Like we did last year.
We also do have like limits on the amount of we could spend on blacktop without board approval. So that's something we need to consider also.
I think you probably will be able to get board approval for this item if we have the money. Okay.
I am curious. I know that earlier in the year the Highview parking lot was paved, and it was paved like up until it doesn't even seem like it came to the first speed bump. It seems like it stopped at a part that I had assumed was where our responsibility might have ended.
We had to do it what was within our budget and what was most important at the time.
Yeah, we had a certain amount of funds for the year for blacktopping so far, and we kind of drew a line at the top of the radius there to get it close, so that now the next part that we would do would be going down the roadway, working our way out of the building.
Okay.
Two other questions.
Yeah. Gabriella?
Sorry, I was unmuting. Most of Megan, that was the same question that Megan brought up. That's what I was gonna ask, and something you said, David, which is a second question, but to the point of the paving, I know they've patched up. I've been driving to and from Highview, feels like forever, but the patching, when that conversation is had with the town or with whoever is responsible for that piece down by the parking lot by Wetfield, at this point, patching it's not lasting, given our winters and given, the change in weather. I don't know how, obviously, there's also budget, but can a suggestion be made for them to pave that part? It didn't, to Megan's point, like they did Highview pretty quick.
We did Highview. They did.
No, I know. Highviews, I'm saying in general, the paving piece didn't seem to take that long. So I wonder if the suggestion could be made down, at the parking lot, down at the Wetfield parking lot, that they can just kind of pave that whole section, because it's, again, from year to year, it's just, it's not lasting.
We can recommend, but the town has their own budget, and if it's not in the budget.
Correct, right.
And we have recommended, Dr. Iverson and I have been on.
Yeah, I told
from Parks and Rec, so we give them our recommendation, but what they do with it, I don't know.
Okay,
right.
We're working on it. Okay, Sarah.
Yeah, just along those lines, it seems like the main part of the down parking lot, the like town parking lot, was redone at some point, and then they left this whole section that I guess is GCSD, and that hasn't been redone forever. I don't know if that's actually the right of way. I just want to make sure that we are not paying for something that the town should be paying for. And I know there can be difficult to deal with, but it's just important that our money doesn't go towards something they should be paying.
Okay. Other comments? Go ahead.
RJ Bailey, the other boiler was fixed and brought back online. We had some water in the gas line, and the valves were finished being replaced. The new gym wall pads, an update on that. We have some We have some updated quotes, and we're gonna be working on creating a purchase order for that, so that should happen probably after the school, after the summer, during the summer. Woodlands, we had broken windows in the commons area are complete. We talked about the vestibule, no groundwater flooding issues in parking lots of kitchen during the last storms. We did have some rain issues in some of the classrooms from the driving rain on the shell of the building. And in addition to roof leaks, problem with the window leaks, I guess you had some pictures.
Yeah, that was last time, yeah.
Item 4 is spread on the football field driveway. Boiler plate was cracked in the Woodlands High School. One of the boilers is out of service while parts were being fabricated. We're hoping to get those parts within a week, and then we can start the repair.
That's not an old boiler. All right, go ahead.
The mansion, we talked about the BBS report.
The water stains on the exterior walls.
What was that?
Water stains on the exterior.
Water stains on exterior walls. Should be fixed as part of a window replacement program.
Right, I think that was Giovanna's concern. She's looking and saying, we need to get
That's the
painted.
runoff, that's the runoff from the steel part.
A lot of it's the aluminum running down. There is some green stuff too where it doesn't get the sun, but most of it is from the I believe it's from the aluminum, the metal flashing dripping down the side of the building.
So if you paint it, it'll just happen
It'll
again.
just come back.
So you have
Like a valve that's old and it stains your siding up with the metal residue.
All right, so we need to redo. All right, the window. Okay, great.
Let's see, bus garage, nothing's really considered changed with the electric vehicle charging stations. And then that's pretty much it for some items.
Okay, the Edgemont Incorporation issue. Edgemont Incorporation may significantly increase property taxes in unincorporated Greenburgh, including our school district. This will negatively impact taxpayers and make school budget and bond passage more difficult. So the board, to make a long story short, has supported trying to reform the village incorporation process. There's been a couple of rounds of legislation in performing the process, but in both cases, the previous round that was finally signed by the governor last year, and in the new round that happened lightning quick this year, they found ways to exclude Edgemont from the process so that it doesn't apply to them. The Saving Greenburgh group has tried at various points to have like a write-in campaign to try a campaign to try and lobby for changes such the exclusion doesn't happen. The town of Greenburgh is realizing that their B budget is going to suffer horribly if this incorporation goes through. So I believe they hired legal counsel to try and say that it's not legal to specifically exclude this one particular area of Greenburgh from legislation that's supposed to apply statewide. And that's as much as I know about it at this point. Dr. Carol Allen is a member of the Saving Greenburgh Coalition. Carol, would you like to update us further on this?
Well, you have captured what's going on very well. The town is preparing for litigation. It's not time to file it just yet. It has to be what's called ripe. There is a study that is currently being conducted by a consulting group called CGR. That group will be having a public meeting on Wednesday, March the 20th at 7 p.m. at Town Hall in order to present their findings that they expect to be reflected in the final report. The report must be submitted by the end of March because it has to be submitted during the current fiscal year. So we do have some concerns that it might not be comprehensive, but those are the restrictions under which they're working. So we encourage everyone to please come to Town Hall on Wednesday, March 20th at 7 p.m. to hear the report. I don't know exactly how much public comment will be allowed, but we certainly need to demonstrate that we are all concerned about the problem. I'd also like to point out that Tom Avenanti is planning to run for Assembly District in the Democratic primary coming up. He is currently collecting signatures on petitions. He is strongly in favor of the changes that were made to village law, but he's extremely opposed to the exemption that was made for Edgemont. And he is planning, if elected, to submit legislation that would undo the exemption for Edgemont. He also wants to submit a bill for legislation that would give the right to vote to everyone in Greenburgh should there be a referendum. So please come out for the meeting on the 20th. If you can't make it, please watch the live stream, but we really want to have the audience full of concerned citizens that night.
Ms. Allen, do you know where all of our representatives stand on this issue right now? Do we know where Andrea Stewart-Cousins and everybody down the road, do we know how each one stands on this issue?
Senator Stewart-Cousins is the person who submitted the chapter amendment that would exempt Edgemont through the year 2040. So it is quite clear where she stands. She is in favor of Edgemont being able to continue to try to incorporate under the old rules, which means they would not be subjected to a state panel determining if the referendum can go forward. So she is clearly in the pockets of the Edgemont Incorporation Committee. Mary Jane Shimsky is sort of on the fence. Her position has been that she was against the law, but she did not want to speak very strongly against it, and she did not work very hard to get her colleagues to vote against the proposed amendment because she was concerned about her future effectiveness and her ability to get other legislation passed should she buck the system. And the third candidate, Tom Avenanti, is firmly opposed to the Edgemont exemption. So he is the person that stands closest to the position that we feel is the appropriate one.
Thank you.
And I can add that, according to my last bullet here, Senator Cousins on the Senate Bill 8001, Assembly Bill 8573, which is the new one, which you know excludes Edgemont from the reform process until the year 2040. The Senator Cousins voted yes on a floor vote for that, and Assemblywoman Shimsky voted no in there's a committee on local governments that had to approve it before it got to the floor, and she voted no in the committee on local governments. So that's what I have. Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments, questions, or concerns on any topic beyond this? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
In favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. You're real troopers for staying this late. Have a good evening.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Everybody have a good night.